Hi guys, James at Rampant Lion Reviews again for you today with another beer review. For this one we are going to head over to America once again, and we're going to revisit a brewery that you've seen me do a number of reviews from. So we're going back to Grand Rapids in Michigan, and we're going to try another beer from Founders Brewing Company, and this of course was one of the small party releases through Systembolaget here in Sweden on the 5th of October 2018. So for this one we're going to try the Mosaic Promise, which is a single hop IPA coming in at 5.5%. So it should be an interesting beer this. I've heard very good things about this on Rate Beer. It has a rating, it's either 95 overall and 96 within the style, or the other way around. So this one is supposed to be a very nice beer. Mosaic hops, of course, are one that I really enjoy. If you've watched my channel before, you will know that I love the big orangey hops, and you know, like the likes of Amarillo, Mosaic, Azaka, Pacifica from New Zealand, of course. Mandarina Bavaria from Germany is another one too. I really love the big orangey IPAs. Mosaic, of course, is a very interesting hop because it gives you nice sort of tangerine notes, but also a little bit of blueberry and stuff as well. So very curious to see how this beer turns out. I've heard good things about it, so looking forward to this one, and as always I hope you guys enjoy my take on this one. So anyway, as is usual with my reviews then, I'll tell you a little bit about the brewery. If you want to get straight to the tasting, just fast forward. All the usual links are in the description below. That's the brewery website, it's the link to my other reviews that I've done from Founders Brewing Company before. No doubt there will be some more in the near future. There's all the usual social media. If you want to see more beer reviews, do please consider subscribing to the channel. The whole channel of course has a geography based tagging system, so you can go into the home page and search for beer based on country, city, state, county, prefecture, whatever it is you're interested in. Do check out the playlists of beers from different countries. There is one there for all the American beers that I've reviewed for you. That's constantly being added to, and as always please do get in touch and let me know some of the other beers and breweries that you guys would like to see me review. It's always great to hear from you guys that are watching the videos, and the support that you show the channel is hugely appreciated. So anyway, to tell you a little bit about Founders Brewing Company then, before we get started on the tasting. So this brewery was originally founded back in 1997 as the Canal Street Brewing Company, and as I told you, they're based in Grand Rapids in Michigan. And the two founders of this brewery were Mike Stevens and David Engbers, and the two were home brewing enthusiasts, but they'd only just finished their university studies at this point, but they both actually had steady jobs as well. But they decided that they wanted to follow their passion, so they drew up a business plan, took out some hefty loans and quit their jobs. But in the 1800s, several breweries had operated in the Canal Street area of Grand Rapids, and this area is apparently now known as Monroe Avenue. But the original labels on these beers were basically a black and white photo of the original Canal Street breweries, and they had the words Founders above it, and the beer became known kind of colloquially as Founders, and they eventually changed the name officially to Founders Brewing Company. But since the mid-2000s the brewery's grown substantially, and they're now producing somewhere in the region of 340,000 barrels of beer per year, and their sales market of course is constantly growing. They've also got a tap room at the brewery which overlooks the actual brewing facilities itself, so you can watch them actually brewing the beers as you're drinking them, and they've apparently got a lot of kind of exclusive beers in there. A lot of the pilot beers that they take and brew you will often find in the tap room first, so it's somewhere I do need to go and visit at some point. And they also host an annual festival which is called Founders Fest, and the street in front of the brewery is often closed off. They get other local brewers there, they get local food, they get local bands and things like that to perform. Apparently it's quite popular and quite a good festival, so it's something that maybe I need to see if I can check out at some point. It's been about 8 or 9 years actually since I've been out to the States last time, and you know, but the last time I was out there it was frustrating because I was 20, and you know, you couldn't at that age you can't drink beer in America, which for me is quite stupid actually. You know, it should be 18 pretty much as it is everywhere else, or even 16 for beer and 18 for spirits or something like that. But yeah, I'll need to get out to Grand Rapids at some point. Now I know there's some other very good Michigan breweries as well, so if you haven't tried some of the Founders beers, I would ask you, where have you been? These guys are probably one of the most recognisable American craft breweries, particularly in Europe. It's one of the most widely distributed American craft breweries over here in Europe, and this is a beer that's a fairly recent release. I think this one's been out for maybe like 2 years or something like that, at least in Europe. It might have been a little bit longer in America of course, but yeah, like I say, an interesting brewery. This one probably best known for the likes of the KBS and the CBS, the Kentucky Breakfast Stout and the Canadian Breakfast Stout, and also the Dirty Bastard and Backwoods Bastard. They're Scotch ales as well, which are pretty good. They're the kind of go-to American style Scotch ales if you like. So but yeah, an interesting brewery this one. I've had a lot of good experiences with these guys in the past, so I'm very interested to try another IPA from them. So yeah, just let you have a little look at the artwork of this one before we open up. There you can see the Mosaic Promise. There's the woman there with her hop plants, I think it is, or the hop pellets, I think, and a little bit of beer. She's wasting beer by pouring it onto the ground. It's bad. But yeah, you can see there's the little top label there, the founder's top label, and of course it is the standard bottle cap. On the back here it says the best before date of this one is the 7th of May 2019, and it's 5.5% ABV. Now the one thing I would say about this, if this is it says it's best before the 7th of May, I'm wondering how fresh this one's going to be, and this is one of the downfalls of Systembolaget and some of the importers that they use for the American beers, because this beer's obviously been imported straight away, but then they've had to wait. That's something that Systembolaget need to fix, because you do want to get these beers as kind of fresh as you can, but some of the IPAs and stuff like that we get from America end up sitting for like 3 months before they're actually released, so we'll have to remember that when we actually review this beer itself. So yeah, let's get it out then and we'll get on with the tasting. As I say though, this beer is quite a highly rated one, 95 or 95 overall and 96 within the style and rate beer. I'm pretty sure it was that way around, but it could be vice versa. And of course that may well change as time goes on. I'm filming this review for you at the start, or towards the middle actually, of October into 2018. But yeah, as you open this beer up, you can definitely get a little hint of some of these distinctive mosaic-y notes. But as you can see with this one, it's poured quite a bright yellow colour actually. There is a little bit of haze to this one. You can see there's a solid finger of a frothy, I would say perfect white head on this one. One or two big bubbles sticking towards the side of the glass, and a few little ones just heading up towards the bottom of that head there. If I put my fingers behind the glass, you can see there is a degree of transparency to this one. But yeah, no, it's not the haziest of beers you're going to come across, of course, but yeah, it looks pretty much exactly as you would expect from an IPA, although I guess when it's 5.5% it's maybe debatable whether this is a pale ale or an IPA. Of course the two styles are linked by their malt to hops ratio. Of course they're basically, the IPA is the big brother of the pale ale, and then the double IPA is the big brother of that, and then the barley wine is the big brother of that. But yeah, so yeah, it looks pretty much as you'd expect. Let's take a closer look at the aroma and see how we get on with this one. So yeah, the aroma on this one is pretty straightforward. It is pretty much what you'd expect. On the malt base you get a little bit of a bready note, you know, that kind of pale ale malt sort of thing. A little bit of that white bready quality. There's a little bit of a biscuity note, maybe a wee touch of caramel, something like that in there. And yeah, on the hoppy side of things, in terms of the floral kind of grassy notes, yeah, mainly grassy, this one. Some of the hops can be a lot more floral and almost in pine resiny as well. But this one for me, the notes coming out of this beer, there is a little bit of floral quality in the background there, but mainly it's a kind of lighter grassy note with this one. I'm guessing with the way that the malt's coming out in this one, I think this might be more of a pale ale than an IPA, because the malt does have a good presence in the aroma. But on the fruity side of things, again, it's kind of what you'd expect. There's a little bit of an oily orange to this one, but it's mainly a slightly sharper tangerine, and there's a good little bit of a kind of blueberry coming out in the background of this beer. The Mosaic hops are a really interesting one, because like I say, you get the citrusy orange, but you also get a little bit of that kind of berryish fruit out of it. So it's a really interesting and quite diverse hop actually. I really do like the Mosaic, and it's becoming a more and more popular hop. I think the Mosaic hop really started to come out in around 2014 and in Europe in about 2015. It is an American hop, like I said, but yeah, it's an interesting one, so you know, it's something I'd like to experiment a little bit more on the home brews with, so maybe that's something for the future. But yeah, without further ado then, let's have a taste of this beer and just see how we get on. So this one is the Mosaic Promise, a single hop IPA pale ale sort of thing at 5.5% from Founders Brewing Company over in Grand Rapids in Michigan, one of the small partiers in Systembolaget on the 5th of October 2018. Let's get stuck into this one then. Sláinte, skål. Yeah. Okay, yeah, no, I will say, like I was saying about this beer at the start when I saw the bottling date on this the 7th of May 2019, it's not at its freshest. I will say that straight up. So this beer, if you're drinking it over in America, you probably will get it a little bit fresher than this. That said, it is still pretty good, but this is something that Systembolaget really need to work on when it comes to bringing these IPAs and stuff like that over from America. Because I had it, the other one that I had was the triple IPA from Sierra Nevada, and it was kind of the same like this. The hops do drop out. If it's 3 months after the bottling date, your hops are on their way out at this point. And yeah, I mean, there is still a little bit of that around there, but I can imagine, you can see with this beer, fresh, it would be absolutely beautiful. It's good as it is, but you know, when you're used to drinking these kind of beers and you know that they can be fresh, it's one of these things that it kind of, it winds you up a little bit. But that said, there is enough from this one just to you know, to see what it's all about. And I would say, going by the sort of flavours in this one, this is more of a pale ale to me than it is an IPA. And I've always found you can usually tell because the pale ales just have a little bit of a kind of biscuity sweetness, whereas the IPAs have a little bit more caramel and things like that to them to cover the alcohol that little bit better. But yeah, for me, this one, it's we'll start with the malt base then. You can feel that kind of white bready kind of quality, that just blankets the middle of your palate there. That's the pale malt. In the centre of the palate you get a little bit of a kind of slightly caramelly sweetness, and as you go out from the centre of the palate you get a little bit of a kind of biscuity note to this one, and as you say, the biscuity note comes out a little bit further. When you go further into the aftertaste, there's a little bit of a kind of almost grainy note just sits there in the middle of your palate. The obvious beer that we should compare this one to, I would say, is would be the Zombie Dust from Three Floyds, which is actually very close over in Indiana. But this one, yeah, you can tell that fresh it would be a really, really good beer, and it is, as I say, it is good as it is, and I like the way that everything's kind of coming across, but you can just feel with the freshness, this would be absolutely lovely. It's one of these things that just annoys you a little bit as a beer reviewer. But yeah, on the hoppy side of things then, back corners of the palate, you've got a little bit of earthiness there. As you come further forward along the sides of the tongue, that just smooths out a little bit, and the beer becomes a little bit more floral. It's almost got a little touch of spiciness to it there, and then when you get to the front corners of the palate, you can feel a little bit of that spiciness there too. But then as you go round the front corners of the palate, you've got a little bit of that lighter, grassier note to the beer. Then behind the front curve of the tongue, that's where the beer starts to get the fruity, kind of juicy side of things out of it. Yeah, you can still get some of the nice fruity, juicy notes out of this beer. But yeah, with this one, and I like the way, the one thing about the Mosaic as well is, compared to some of the other American hops, it does have a little touch of earthiness to it. So it's kind of interesting. That's one of the really interesting points, I would say, about the Mosaic hop. But behind the front curve of the palate, like I say, that's where you get that little oily bubble where the fruity, juicy esters come out of this beer. For me, this one, it's mainly a kind of orange. It's quite a strong orangey flavour actually. There's maybe even a little tiny touch towards the back of that front part of your palate where you get the fruity notes. There's maybe just a tiny wee bit of grapefruit or something in there, which you can sometimes get from Mosaic depending on what malts and things it's mixed with. But yeah, you can definitely pick up a little bit of the oranges have got a big presence in this beer. You've got that nice tangerine orange. It's got a little bit of sharpness to it, I would say, which is quite nice, and you just get that slightly sharper but juicy tangerine orange flavour rather than the oily kind of note that you would get from the Amarillo. But towards on the front of the palate, almost like right on the tip of your tongue, that's where these nice blueberry notes I think are coming out from the Mosaic. And like I say, the tangerines and the blueberries and a little bit of that earthiness, those are probably the three really distinctive features of the Mosaic hop for me. But yeah, this beer, as I say, it's good. But the disappointing thing for me is that Systembolaget, they hold them for about 3 months and then they put them out on the shelves. They should be ordering them later and get them there. It does not take them 3 months to distribute this beer throughout Sweden. There's no way about that. But then again, I think they might be using like Brewing Co or one of the importers to actually supply them with these American beers. So that is one thing also to bear in mind about that. The onus might be on the importer to provide Systembolaget with a slightly fresher product, if that makes sense. But overall, like I say, it's a good beer. You wouldn't expect a bad beer from Founders, to be honest. I've only, in all the beers that I've reviewed from Founders, the only one I was a bit disappointed with was the Barrel Runner. But this, as it stands, this is a good beer, but I think fresh it would be even better. I've repeated that a few times in the video. But in terms of the mouthfeel, this one, I'd say, you know, mid-bodied. Carbonation is kind of what you'd expect. It's fairly smooth. It's got a nice little bit of an oily mouthfeel to it, this one. Nice little bit of hoppy bitterness, like I was saying. In terms of IBUs, I would say... yeah, in terms of IBUs, I would say maybe 40-ish mark or 50-ish mark, somewhere around there. The malt base is fairly smooth, but there's a little bit of sweetness in there. Juicy fruits, like I was saying as well. And it has pretty much everything you would want from the IPA, but an IPA paleo sort of thing. In terms of that kind of divide, this one is, as I would say, I thought it was, when I first tasted it, I was thinking more paleo. Now I'm thinking it's kind of right on that borderline between the IPA and the paleo, because it does, as your mouth kind of adjusts to this one a little bit more, you do get a little bit of a kind of more slightly caramelly malty thing to it, and that kind of lingers into the aftertaste a little bit. So this one I think is kind of right on the border between the IPA and the paleo. It is more of a paleo. For me, I would always say when you start to get above 6%, I think that's when you're kind of into the IPA territory over the paleo. But as I say, it's a nice beer, this one. It is very good, but it would be even better if it was really quite fresh. So maybe that's something I can look out for in the fairly near future. But as a nice kind of drinkable pale ale IPA sort of thing, it's an absolutely solid beer, and I can see from seeing what this one's like when it's about 3 months old. In fact, it's actually nearer 4 months. It's actually nearer 5 months old at this point, because we're drinking it as it says on the back. The best before date is 7th of the 5th, 2019. So I'm guessing it's usually a year after it was bottled that they put on these things. So this beer is actually about 5 months old. So it's holding up. For 5 months old, it is actually it's holding up fairly well. But like I say, I think you would get a lot more out of this beer when it's completely fresh. But even at this point, it is still quite nice, and I can see on the basis of how it is now why it's so highly rated. So bear that in mind when you're drinking this one in Europe. If it's a little bit older, it's not quite as good as it's going to be fresh over in America. But that's one of the things when it comes to these imported beers. But yeah, an interesting one this, and like I say, I'm glad that I was able to review it. I always enjoy reviewing the new stuff for Founders, but I think over here in Europe, the beers that we're going to enjoy most from them are the dark ones, because they travel a little bit better. It's not so important in terms of the time that the beer's on the shelf and things when it comes to the dark beers. But yeah, a nice kind of paleo, this one, and I'm glad that I was able to review it. It's nice to review a paleo rather than a dark beer from Founders. I think most of the beers that I've reviewed recently have been the darker, higher alcohol ones. But yeah, a nice beer, this one, and I'm glad I got to review it, and hopefully I can try it fresh over in Michigan or something like that soon. But yeah, really cool to review this one, and I hope you've enjoyed my take on this beer. So yeah, once again, thank you for watching my beer reviews. Until the next time, please like, subscribe, share, all the usual YouTube stuff. Let me know your own thoughts on this one in the comment section below. Let me know what your favourite beers are from Founders Brewing Company. Of course, you can check out my other reviews as well, and I will catch you guys very soon with some more beer reviews. This one was the Mosaic Promise from Founders Brewing Company over in Grand Rapids in Michigan. Until the next time, it's Slanted just now, and I will catch you guys very soon. Skål.